Welcome to Courage on the Pitch, brought to you by Wake Orthopedics Urgent Care.
North Carolina champions again!
Here's Megan O'Keefe.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Courage on the Pitch, presented by Wake Orthopedics Urgent Care. And today we have an awesome guest on the show, Havana Solaun. If you're watching, I'm pointing at her name. But so excited about our conversation. Havana has played with the Courage since 2020 when she signed with the team early last year. And Havana has had an incredible career, but it's also been riddled with injuries. She's torn her ACL several times and has just recently torn her meniscus. So we catch up with Havana on how her rehab's going. And we also talk a lot about the mental side of recovery and injuries, especially playing at this level and being a pro. So we chat all about that, as well as her experience playing for the Jamaican National Team. She scored a goal. She scored their first goal in a World Cup. So chat all about that experience, as well as her growing up in some very interesting places. So stay tuned for that conversation. But before we get there, we will do a quick recap of the past weekend's games, which for the Courage side, they have been on their international break. So no Courage games, but our international players just were incredible for their teams. We had 4 of our Courage players score for their respective countries. We had Denise O'Sullivan score for the Irish national team. Lynn scored for the U.S. Anhara James scored for Wales, and Dabinia scored for Brazil. Trying to remember that off the top of my head. But so good job to all of them. We're excited to have them back for our final regular season game against Portland this weekend on Saturday. We'll preview that at the very end. And then on the NCFC side, they got a big win at home against Tormenta last Saturday, 1-0. Big goal by Peter Pearson. So congrats to the fellas on getting that big win. So without further ado, what you've all been waiting for, our conversation with Havana Solaun right after this break.
Courage on the Pitch, off the field.
Havana Solaun is on the show. Obviously, so excited. We've had you on before when we had Carson on. That awesome surprise. But you have such an amazing story, and we've chatted a lot offline. But there's so much I want to chat with you about. But obviously, the fans, I'm sure, want to know how you're feeling. You hurt your knee against Houston a couple weeks ago. Where are you at with all the recovery there?
Yeah, so in the Houston game, I actually tore my meniscus. And Tuesday was 1 week since surgery. And the recovery is kind of probably 5 to 6 months. So I'm pretty much just getting started. And hopefully that time flies.
Yeah. So what happened in the game when you went down?
Yeah, it was just a misstep. So it actually happened a couple plays before I actually went down. I stepped funny. I heard a pop, and I was like, oh. Then I kept playing. And then the play that I actually went down, I stepped funny again, and it heard another pop. The ball was coming to me, and I was like, I need to kick it. So then I kicked it, and it kind of looked like my ankle wasn't locked. And everyone's like, oh, is it your ankle? And I was like, no, it's my knee. So after that, I was just like, oh, like that doesn't feel good. And yeah, I mean, I just stepped funny. I just stepped wrong.
Yeah, and those are the worst. I mean, obviously, no knee injury is ideal, but like the ones where there's no contact and it's just that awkward step, and you're like, oh no. And you have a past of getting hurt, injuring this knee in particular. So you've had that experience, unfortunately. So like when that happens, you're probably like, okay, this is it. So did those thoughts run through your head initially? Any flashbacks?
So yeah, since I have done my ACL in the past, I know what that feels like. And it didn't quite feel like that. To be honest, that my ACL pain wasn't as much as the meniscus pain.
Really?
When I was sitting on the field, I was like in quite a bit of pain. And that's why it was almost comforting though, because I was like, okay, my ACL didn't hurt this bad. So like, it's not my ACL. Yeah. So there was kind of like that emotion going on. And then they do the field test there, and because I've previously torn this ACL, when they do the thing where they shake your knee back and forth, also I was in pain. So they're like, we can't really feel an end point. And I was like, oh. But the MRI showed that the ACL was like fine. It wasn't an issue. But yeah, I think the hard thing with those injuries, it's like you caused it. You know, when it's non-contact, you're like, that's me. Like I'm the reason that I'm sitting out right now because and of my 3 injuries, they've all been non-contact.
Oh my gosh. It's so hard not to put that on yourself. I just want to tell you, it's not your fault, but it sucks when it's no contact. Like
right.
So when was your most recent injury prior to this one?
So prior to this, my most recent injury was 2015, which was my rookie year in the league.
Gotcha. Okay, so backtracking a little bit, we'll obviously get into like you growing up because that is a phenomenal story in and of itself. But so your first year in the league, you had been drafted by Seattle, coming from Florida. You played at UF, got drafted into the league. First year in, obviously super excited to be a pro, and then you got hurt. So what happened there?
Yeah, so I was in Seattle. It was our last preseason game. We were playing UW, and there was like 2 minutes left in the first half, and I was playing forward at the time, and I was running at the back line. I touched the ball around the defender, and she kind of got a toe on it, so the ball spun back into my stride, and I stepped right on the ball. And it was a turf field, and the ball kind of just like popped back out. I heard a crack, went down, and I was like, oh, the trainer came on. He's like, where does it hurt? And I was like, from my knee down is like excruciating. And he was like, but like where? And I was like, from my knee down.
It's all of it.
And so I actually walked off the field.
Wow.
And then he was like, I'm going to tape you up and like, we're going to put you back in. And I was like, I really don't think I can go. And he's like, we're just going to tape you up. You're just going to try. And I was like, I'm in like quite a bit of pain. And I mean, I'm a rookie too. So I'm like trying to be like, no, but also kind of like, please don't put me back in. And he's like, we're just going to tape you up and you're going to try. And Merritt was actually on the Seattle when I was there, and she was on the bench, and she turns around to the trainer and she's like, why are you putting her back in? There's 2 minutes left in the half.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, oh, okay. And I was like, thank you.
Oh my gosh. So you didn't want to say anything?
I was like trying to explain that I was in pain. And then like the doctor came to check me out, and they're like, scale of 1 to 10, where are you at? I'm like, I'm kind of a 9. And they're like, oh, so you're in a bit of pain. And I was like, yeah. They assessed it there, and they were like, you've got a high ankle sprain. It's going to be, 6 to 8 week recovery in a boot, like, and you'll be good to go. So I was like, okay. So I go into the doctor's office on Monday, and the doctor walks in. He's like, so you have a spiral fracture. You're going to need a plate and screws, 2 surgeries, 1 year recovery. I'm going to go prep for surgery. And walks out of the room. And I like look at my trainer, and I was like, did he just come into the wrong room? And he comes over and he's like, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't realize, like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you can first of all go tell him I'm not about to have surgery. Because at this point, I was living with a host family on the 3rd floor of an apartment. And I was like, plate and screws, like, no. Mm-mm. So it was like a big shock, really, when I found out that it was broken and I was going to need like hardware put in. Wow. So I ended up flying home to have my surgeries. They were probably like 3 months apart. And yeah, so that was quite a long recovery.
And that was all in your rookie year when you're like,
yeah. So I pretty much missed my entire rookie season. I came back for preseason the following year.
Holy cow. So, I mean, there's so much to unpack here. Obviously your career, you've had so many highs with, making Jamaican National Team and, playing professionally, but also riddled with all these injuries. And so I know we chatted a lot about this a couple days ago, but just talking about that recovery process and how much of it is like so mental. Like, I think I've chatted with some other players who are like, the physical part, the rehab part is almost the easier thing. It's like, okay, I have a plan. Here's what I have to do each day, the physical part. But it's like that mental part, especially your injuries that are extended periods of time that you have to recover. So how did you even start, especially as a rookie? Let's start with that one. Like, what was that mental process like? Is that, how did you start to work through that?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I think people don't underestimate how difficult it is to be non-weight bearing. To not have the ability to just to not have the ability to like have, so with my ACL, for people who don't know, like you're pretty much weight bearing right after surgery is like when you start with rehab and stuff. So when I broke my leg, I was non-weight bearing for about 4 months. And like the muscle atrophy, the like activity, you're so used to always being on your feet. So even with like knee injuries, well, not this one, I guess exactly. I'm still non-weight bearing, but to be able to just like physically use your body, I think is a good distraction, which is why I think a lot of people are like, well, the physical side of it like is the easy side because you're doing something. Where with my leg, I felt like the opposite. There was just so little that I could do. Sure, I could do upper body lifts, but like also as soccer players, it's not like the most important part, but it was something. And there were other parts to it. Like one, I didn't fully feel part of the team. I was with the team for a couple of weeks. So then I'm like back home. So I'm also like physically removed from like the space. And like I said, it was just such a slow process because like you're just in a cast waiting. You know, there's not like with the ACL, like once you get this quad strength, you can then progress and progress and progress. And because I had 2 surgeries, after the second one, I went back into a cast. So I was just like, it was just this like almost seemed never ending. And I think for me, one, I was like very fortunate for the support of my family because I was living back home at that point. And it's just like finding things to do. And like when you don't have soccer and you don't have like literally physical activity, I'm like, okay, there's only so much TV that can be watched. Like that's like out the window, like before I even had surgery, you know? And so I think it's just finding ways to stay engaged and like positive, honestly, because a year's a long time and you can't just start off being like, oh, this is going to suck. This is going to be a long recovery. I think it's just one of those things where you're like, I'm just going to do it or like at this, or this is it for me. I think that that's just the decision. And once the decision's made, like what needs to happen leading up just happens. And I think you almost get into an autopilot. At least I do when I'm like trying to like enjoy the process of it because it's hard. And you know that when you're done that you're going to appreciate it. And like all these things make us stronger and all of these things make sense when you're back on the field and you're like, yeah, I am like happy that I like had this obstacle. But when you're in it, that's a mindset that's like very far away. And people are like, well, you're going to appreciate it. Like when you have the game again and you know, this is going to make, you're going to come back stronger. And you're just like, yeah. But like right now, I don't feel that.
Yeah, I know. It's like you have to keep telling yourself like this happened to me for a reason. You know, there's a purpose behind this, whether it's, you know, working on my mental strength or whatever it may be, but you don't come to that easily. So for you, I mean, you had ACL tears, multiple, I think, in college. Is that right?
I had one ACL tear. It was about a year before I broke my leg.
Yeah. So you had the college experience and then your rookie year. And then obviously fast forward to now, you've just gone through so many of these. I'm curious if you almost look back at them and you learn something each time about yourself and how you were able to like mentally be strong through it. And I know we chatted about this and you said something so interesting. You're like, I'm sick of being the comeback kid. You're like, I'm kind of over this, but
yeah,
you still pull from those past experiences to help you even now through this current injury.
Yeah. I think from the biggest thing I've pulled from like physically, just like a recovering standpoint, it's the importance of like the first like 2 weeks post-surgery. Because 2 weeks post-surgery, I think is kind of like the lowest low. You're in pain. You don't like the pain just exhausts you. So you're tired. You're not really able to move around a lot, but those 2 weeks are really, really crucial from a PT standpoint, getting the swelling out and doing like the silly things like the ankle pumps and the quad sets that you're like, is this actually going to do anything?
Yeah.
You know? So I think for me, from like a recovery standpoint, it's really, really focusing on those 2 weeks because you don't want to do anything but lay on the couch. You want to lay on the couch, put some ice on your knee and be like, okay, I'm gonna let the ice do the work. But I think I also, like with everything, when you're sitting on the sidelines, you have a different appreciation for the game. Because before my ACL in college, I'd never really sat out for an extended period of time. So that was my first like major injury. And then the same thing with my leg. I think the more time that I spent away, the more I was able to also kind of cultivate my life outside of soccer, which I think is a very difficult thing to do post-career. When you have no choice and like, not that you have no choice, but like at some point, like we got to stop playing.
Yeah.
So I think it kind of allowed me to learn different things that I do enjoy doing that don't revolve around soccer or being active or running around. And like I said, it wasn't necessarily by choice. Like I had to find something to do.
Right.
When I just like can't move.
Yeah, exactly. And when something in life happens that like forces you to find those things outside of this identity that you've always known, it's like, I know I keep referencing our conversation, but it was so good a couple of days ago, just how you talked about this thing you've done with your life is so dependent on your body and the state and physicality of your body. And then when all of a sudden this thing in life happens that takes you away from that, you're like, oh my gosh, like what do I even like to do? Like what else do I enjoy?
Yeah.
What did you get into that kind of helped you on that mental side of getting through?
I think one of the biggest things was jigsaw puzzles. So when I broke my leg, like I said, I needed something to just be like right here. You know, I couldn't like be active in doing things. And I was probably doing 1,000-piece puzzles in like a day. because I had all day. I would probably go do like one upper body lift and then just be done.
Upper body with puzzle. Okay.
Yeah. So I would have that, crossword puzzles, books, just kind of obviously sedentary, but also just like different types of engagement. I think, like I said, like obviously we play a very physical sport and we're used to being like up and about. So it's kind of nice to like almost even slow down a little bit and just be like, you know what, like if I just am going to go sit outside to just sit outside, I am. And I think we live a very fast-paced life in a way, in the way that we train and the expectations we hold of our body. So I think it was kind of an acceptance of like, I have no choice but to slow down. So I'm literally just going to slow down.
Yeah. And the other thing that you touched on briefly, but the thing about injuries, especially in a team sport, all of a sudden you're an individual where like you're so used to doing everything as a team. And now being the injured person, you're doing this recovery, you're doing things on your own because you're like detached from the team. And something you said that was so interesting was when you went down with your knee, the first players who came to you were ones that have had injuries before. Not to say that like those who haven't been injured aren't like concerned, but it's like they get it. Like they empathize what you're going through in those moments. So is there anyone that's like really been a great support system for you throughout this that's been like by your side?
Yeah. I mean, there's been like the team has been amazing. First of all, I think one, like having a big dog has made it very difficult. So
we do need to touch on this,
so for one, Abby and Carson have been amazing with helping with Whiskey, and so have like Riley and Britt, and they've just like literally been like, hey, we're here to take Whiskey for a walk. And I'm like, wow. And then like Jess brings the soccer chair to training because like it's hard to get up and down off the ground, so she like has a chair in her car that she brings out for me for training. And it's the little things like that I think go a long way, because nobody likes asking for help. I don't care who you are. I don't care like what your profession is. No one likes to be like, hey, can you walk my dog? Hey, can you help me get groceries? Hey, like help me do literally everything, So I think it's hard to ask. And so I think that there's something very valuable about having people around you who offer. They're like, hey, I'm going to come and do this. Hey, I'm going to come cook you dinner tonight. Hey, I'm going to come take your dog out. And the team has just been like really supportive in that way. And I mean, it's shockingly easier than I thought with being on crutches for so long.
Yeah.
And the next thing is like the stairs. Stairs are just like the demise of me. They take so long.
Oh. Yeah.
Although I have figured out a way to go down quicker. The way to go up, there's just no fast way. But when I go down, you use one crutch in the railing and you can really expedite it.
Okay. Yeah, because full disclosure, Havana's apartment doesn't have an elevator. So a little bit of an oversight there. But so you really had to finagle your way up and down those stairs, which has got to be brutal. But you mentioned your dog, Whiskey. Love the name. I don't know if you have a PSA out there if anyone's looking to take care of the dog. I know you're looking for some potential off-season help.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any dog trainers out there that are interested in a good project, Whiskey is a prime candidate for some boot camp, maybe.
Ooh.
There she goes, grabbing a shoe. Leave it.
She's like,
but the worst part with that is like she picks stuff up and like runs around, and I'm like, you either listen to me or you get it, because I can't jump up and grab you.
That is scary. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Her most recent shoe was my knee brace, actually.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I was just in the kitchen and I heard Velcro rip, and I was like, I don't have a lot of Velcro. And I go in there and she's got the padding of my brace in her mouth, and she's jumping around on the bed and she's running all over the place. Like, Mom, I just found the best new toy. Look at it. Like, I
keep showing off.
So calm down and give me that.
Oh no. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. Putting that out there. PSA. If anyone anyone out there is a dog trainer / wants to walk Whiskey. Where did the name Whiskey come from?
I like Whiskey. I'd actually picked the name before I'd gotten her. I'd known that I was going to get a Rhodesian Ridgeback, and the color that they come in is very similar to Whiskey. That's kind of the only coloring they come in. And I've just had always been so set on the name.
I love that. Things you like. Like, I don't know what I would name mine, like Donut or something. But anyway, okay, so I know we've touched on so much injury related stuff, but I do think your story is super important, just talking about the mental side of it and that recovery, because you've obviously been through so much, but some peaks of your career, obviously playing with the Courage, but can't go through this episode without mentioning your time with the Jamaican National Team, scoring Jamaica's first World Cup goal. Is that correct? 2019?
Yeah.
When did you start playing for Jamaica? What's your
2018.
family connection?
And my mom was born in Jamaica. So that gives me citizenship.
Nice. Okay, so 2018, you started playing with that team. And so take us back to the World Cup. I mean, I know that you get to play with the team here and there. It's like the training camps are kind of scattered around, but you go to the World Cup, play with the team. What were sort of your expectations / like goals personally playing for that team on such a huge stage?
Yeah, so I'd actually done some camps with them earlier on in like 2015, and the program was just really kind of getting up and started, and it was quite disorganized. And I remember in 2018, a coach that I'd known through like youth soccer contacted me. He's like, we're getting this together. Like, we really want you to be a part of this. Like, let's do this. And I have U.S. citizenship as well, and I'd been into youth camps with the U.S., and I was just kind of going back and forth, and I was like, you know what, like, yeah, let's do it. And I went to a camp after the coach was like, just come see. And I went to a camp, and there was the girls mainly. The organization still had a lot of room to grow. But when I went to camp, the atmosphere was just like contagious. I was like, this is like something that I want to be a part of. And then the World Cup journey itself was like, honestly, it was pretty chaotic, and it was all over the place, and it was exhausting, and it was draining. And the games almost were like the most relaxing part of the trip because they just had us doing so much all the time.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I mean, I think what's difficult is when you're competing on the world stage like that, like the resources are just so different and what teams actually have access to. But like when you step across the line, the expectation is the same. Yeah. And I think that it just makes such a big difference. And obviously growing up mostly in the US, the girls that grow up in Jamaica or left Jamaica when they were younger to come over here to play, I mean, it's just a different life, and I think getting to see that and getting to know the girls is what made me want to be a part of that team, and just kind of put women's soccer on the map for them because, I think soccer provides a really, really positive way for the younger kids in Jamaica to kind of get out of the environments that they're in that aren't very safe. And so then, yeah, like I said, the World Cup was like the World Cup. Like, what an amazing opportunity to like play on the world stage. And then, yeah, the goal was like kind of an out of body experience. Everyone's like, oh, how loud was the crowd? I was like, I didn't really hear the crowd. Like, I remember hearing my teammates, but like in that moment, like, I think, people talk about, and I think I hit the flow state from exhaustion more than anything. I remember it was just one of those moments where like there was just no thoughts and everything kind of happened slow. Wow. But yeah, I mean, it was an experience.
But that's a really cool approach that you have to it, just in terms of taking that opportunity. Like, you had the opportunity to play at U.S. national team camps, but then you went this route sort of as, being in a place to empower young girls from a country that don't have the same opportunities that other countries do. So I think it's cool that you took that, you ran with it, you scored a goal, you did all the things. But so you said your mom obviously has that connection to Jamaica, but you were not born in Jamaica. You were not born in the US. Let's talk about where you were born / grew up, because this is super cool to me. So where were you born? Let's start there.
I was born in Hong Kong.
Okay.
My mom and dad were tennis pros who met in college. And then right out of college, they got married, and they got a phone call from their coach who was in Hong Kong. They're like, hey, we have this tennis club here. It's called the American Club. We need you guys to come run it. And my mom and dad were like 23, 24 at the time, I think. And they're like, let's do it. So my dad kind of managed the club. My mom taught at the courts. And so we lived there for about 2.5 years. Mm-hmm. I have an older sister was born there. And while we were there, my mom was doing some work in orphanages and then decided to adopt a girl from an orphanage, also my sister. And then, so we were there for 2.5 years. And then we moved back to Florida, and then we moved to Singapore, and then we moved back to Florida, and then we moved to Canada, and then we moved back to Florida.
Wow. A little bit of jet lag there, back and forth. What brought you all to Singapore?
My dad was my dad was managing a restaurant there.
What kind of restaurant?
It was an American food restaurant. It's called Stars.
Interesting.
And yeah, so it was about a year that we were there.
So what do you remember most about living? I know you're super young in most of
Yeah.
those.
I remember school because I remember they spoke in Mandarin and I was like, I don't understand this. And I remember my mom will still laugh at me because my sisters are the same age. So they were in the same class. So I was by myself in the school. And I remember just bawling to my mom before school every day, like, please don't make me go. Please don't make me go. Please don't make me go. And then I actually locked myself in the bathroom once. And they like couldn't get me out because of the way that they did it. And they were trying to talk to me, but I didn't understand what they're saying. I had to like crawl out through like the bathroom window and then like the gutter on the roof. It was like a big scene. So when I think about most of it's like school related.
Sounds traumatic.
Yeah, I mean it wasn't a pleasant experience. But yeah, I would say school was the biggest thing I remember. And, I remember the apartment that we lived in and on Sundays, we'd kind of go to this market and we'd get these, I don't even know what they were. It kind of tasted like a sugar-covered crepe.
Ooh.
I don't know what, but I don't know what it was, but it was so good. And we go on Sundays to get those. But yeah, I think most of the memory. And then when we first moved there, we didn't have anything but board games. So for the first month, we played Monopoly every single night. I hate board games and just refused to play them since.
Jigsaw puzzles for life. No
Honestly,
more.
if you give me a 1,000-piece puzzle or more, I'm all for it.
It's time for red card, yellow card.
So let's get into our game that we totally made up. It's called yellow card, red card, or play on. And it's basically, I'll give you a category. We got 3 things under each category, and you're going to give the thing that you hate, don't want in your life, give it a red card. Yellow card goes to the thing you're like, okay, like I'll keep this around. Play on, have to keep this in my life, love it. So, understand the rules.
Yeah.
We're going to start with coffee orders. Okay, so we've got a plain latte. No flavors, no nothing, plain latte. We've got an iced vanilla latte, keyword iced, it's cold. And then third, a black coffee, straight black coffee. Okay.
Red card, iced vanilla latte.
What?
Coffee needs to be had hot. The end.
I feel like that's the one that's
red card. Okay, yellow card, a cup of black coffee.
Interesting. Okay.
I'll play on all day, every day, plain latte, hot. Yes.
You ordered like extra hot, or you're just
No, not extra hot.
I don't know how people order extra hot.
I don't either. You're asking to get your tongue burned. I almost burned it already on the no, not extra.
If I was the person making it, I'd be like, why? How? I'm just gonna make it regular and just it's a mental thing. Make me think it's hot. Okay, so play on to the plain latte. Everyone knows Havana's coffee order when you come to deliver her a coffee because her needs hurt. All right. Next, we've got a favorite off-day activity. Starting out, pool day with the gals with the team when it's warm out. Obviously, I know you guys got a cool pool at your apartment. So pool day with the girls, doing crosswords on the recliner, or going on walks with Whiskey, your dog.
I'm going to change up the order of the cards.
Okay.
Walks with Whiskey, yellow card.
Okay. Keep that around, maybe.
Training wasn't too hard, you want to go for a little walk.
A little stroll. Okay.
Play on, crossword in the recliner.
Oh, throwing us for a loop. I guess we can't be too surprised, but.
Red card, pool day with the girls.
Sorry, girls. Gals enough. Havana wants nothing to do with it. Yep. All right. You have your little moment with your crosswords on the recliner. That's a play on all day, every day. I feel like that's a non-off day activity. It's just like a daily thing.
Yep, it is. Every morning.
Okay. Last one. Your go-to dinner. We've got chicken tacos with cheese and mango salsa. Sounds good. Your DoorDash and kava, your favorite kava order from DoorDash, if you have one, or nice salmon and broccoli. Healthy.
Let's go reverse order again. We'll start with play on. No, we started with play on already. No, we didn't. Play on. Tacos. Chicken tacos, mango salsa.
Oh, yeah. Mango salsa.
Yellow card. Salmon and broccoli.
Okay.
Red card. DoorDash and kava. No, thank you.
Really? Even with the hurt leg, you're like, nope.
Yeah, no. Kava just has a little spicy to me. It doesn't matter what I get. It always seems to have a kick, and I'm the biggest baby with spice.
Really?
Always has a kick. Yep.
Interesting. You're like willing to make yourself your own dinner with a torn knee.
Yes.
Then order something that could be delivered.
Yes.
cheaper.
You can balance your crutches on your armpits and still use both hands.
And eat tacos and make salsa.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm starving after all of that, but I think we covered a lot.
We did.
And nice work. All right. Thanks, Havana, for joining us on the show.
Of course.
Coming up on Courage on the Pitch.
All right. Thanks, Havana, for joining us on the show. A quick preview of the games coming up this weekend. NCFC will host Greenville at home on Saturday. This will be their final match of the season as they did not make it into playoffs. So this is your last time to watch the fellas play at Wake Med. They kick off at 7 p.m. on Saturday. So be sure to get your tickets to that game. And then right afterwards, a lovely 10 p.m. kickoff Eastern time. The Courage play against Portland. So obviously it will be in Portland, but you can tune in on Twitch. And again, this is a massive game. It's a must win for the Courage to have any chance of making the playoffs. And then they're relying on a couple results that weekend as well. So big game, 10 p.m. Courage against Portland on Saturday night, the 30th. Yes, the 30th. So thanks so much, everyone, for tuning into the show. Be sure to like, leave a comment, subscribe, share on social media, all the good things, and we'll see you next time.
Courage on the Pitch is sponsored by Wake Orthopedics Urgent Care. Courage on the Pitch with Megan O'Keefe is part of the Capital Broadcasting Podcast Network, with new shows available every Thursday on WRALSportsFan.com or wherever you get your podcasts.